boys and girls, so today is your last reading lesson for this week. We're going to continue reading Frankly Franny. We've been focusing on things that are the same in both books. Today you're going to finish your Noticing Similarities graphic organizer and you're going to email it to us. I know you guys have some great similarities written down. Today as I read, continue thinking about those similarities. Yesterday, we stopped at the scene where Franny and Elliot were laughing at the waiter. They said that he had this funny accent and he was talking really fast and he was talking a lot and he was describing the food in a different way than Franny has ever seen before. So her and Elliot thought that was kind of funny. And after the waiter walked away, Mr. and Mrs. Miller looked at Franny and Elliot with a very strict face. Let's continue reading and see what Mr. and Mrs. Miller are going to do about this. What? I asked with very wide eyes, like I didn't know what I did wrong. You know better than that to laugh at people, my mom said, being a little bit scoldish. We weren't laughing at him, I told her. We were laughing at the way he was talking. That's the same thing. Plus, he was just trying to do his job and you made him feel bad. I hung my head down. Oh, I said. I hadn't meant to make anyone feel bad. It's just that he was saying all these fancy words in a very serious and emergency type of way, and it tickled me from the inside. And when you're tickled from the inside, you don't have a choice about laughing. You just have to. Sorry, I told her. Sorry, Elliot added. I could tell he felt bad too because he had a worry on his forehead. That's when his forehead gets lots of lines on it from worrying too much. Good, now you can apologize to him when he returns. My Cheerio eyes practically zoomed out of my head. To him? But he's a stranger. Yes, but you're with us, so it's okay to talk to him, my mom explained. Strangers have feelings too, my dad added. He was right about that too, and that gave me a very bad day feeling in my belly. I halted hurting people's feelings, especially grown-up men who were very serious about restaurant specials. When he came back to the table, I looked up at the waiter to apologize. I'm sorry that we laughed, I said, looking at his eyebrows instead of his eyeballs so I wouldn't feel so ashamed. I'm sorry too, Elliot added. The waiter made a little laugh and said, You're not the only children who have laughed at my accent. Even though he gave a little laugh, he did not look too happy about this fact. I will tell all the children of the world to stop it, I told him in a very serious tone. Thank you, mademoiselle, said the waiter, and then he flipped open his waiter pad. We gave our orders, and when I was done ordering my spaghetti from the kids section of the menu, I got up all my bravery to ask the waiter a very important question. Excuse me, Mr. Waiter, I said just as he was turning to walk away. Yes? I stood up so he would understand that the question I was asking was extremely important. Can you tell me if the famous restaurant reviewer Maria Cross is here yet? I was so proud of my professional sound that I almost jumped out of my own skin when my parents both gasped. Franny, my mom shouted, and my dad snapped, Bird! The waiter and I looked at each other. We were both very confusified at my parents' reactions. What? I asked. Remember what we explained to you, my dad said. I shook my head no. My parents explained a million things to me. How was I supposed to know the exact thing he was talking about? My dad looked up at the waiter and said, She's a little confused. She doesn't really know what she's saying. The waiter shrugged, but he had a curious look on his face, like he knew a special secret and was thinking about telling it to other people. I am very smart about curious looks and special secrets. After the waiter left, my parents turned back to me. First of all, we don't even know whether Maria Cross will be here tonight. She might very well have decided to come next Friday night. But most importantly, restaurants aren't supposed to know the critics are at the restaurants, remember? So there should be no mention of her name whatsoever, my dad reminded me. I slapped my hand against my forehead. I forgot about that, I said. And while I did feel really bad about giving away a secret, I had to make a brain note about the word whatsoever. It was very grown up and I wanted to use it as oftenly as possible. Chapter 7. When the waiter came back, he had a bread basket and a pitcher of water with him, just like the ones they had at spaghetti lunch. I looked up at him. Remember before how I asked about a famous restaurant reviewer, Maria Cross? I could feel my parents getting ready to slam their hands against their forehead. Yes, the waiter said, waiting for me to tell him a really special secret. Well, that was a mistake. I thought we were at a different restaurant where Maria Cross is supposed to be. That'll be enough, Franny, my dad interrupted. But I was wrong about that because we weren't at that restaurant. We were at this one. And she's not supposed to be here tonight. Not tonight, or whatsoever. Maria Cross, I said. For some reason that I did not understand, I could not stop talking. I could not stop explaining how Maria Cross wasn't going to be here. I just wanted to talk that expression off his face. The one that said, even though you are saying one thing, I still believe the thing you said earlier. And that is the reason why when he came back to deliver our appetizers, I said, so you believe me, right, about Maria Cross not being here? Franny, my dad said, almost yelled. I looked at him. What? I asked as the waiter stood waiting to hear what my dad was going to tell me. Enough. When the waiter walked away, my table was very quiet except for the sound of water sipping and bread chewing. I looked over and saw him whispering to another waiter, and then I watched as that waiter went into the kitchen. And 2 minutes later, a very sweaty, red-faced man dressed in all white came out and looked around the restaurant. I knew exactly what they were doing. They were looking for Maria Cross. My waiter had told. He hadn't believed me. The waiters were looking and looking around until all of a sudden the big, sweaty man in all white nudged his chin in the direction of a lady sitting all by herself. She was a very big lady, which made sense since her job was to eat. She had black curly hair, and she had something on her lap, which meant she was probably hiding something. Probably a pad of paper for notes. Even though I couldn't see exactly if I was right, I knew I was. Maria Cross! I nudged Elliot with my elbow and threw my eyeballs in her direction. When Elliot saw her, he didn't even have to ask who I was talking about. He knew. Sometimes he doesn't even have to read the thoughts in my brain. Sometimes he can just hear them. I was going to do everything Maria Cross was going to do. I looked up at my parents. Elliot and I were going to start a restaurant review now, I told them. Okay, just be quiet about it, my dad said. We will. And then I opened my briefcase and pulled out my 2 notepads and gave one to Elliot. I put mine on my lap like Maria Cross, and Elliot did the same. Then we each held onto our pencils and waited. I knew we both looked very professional, probably like we should have been in an office. Boys and girls, that is where we are going to stop today. And next week, we will continue reading this book. And by the end of next week, we're actually going to finish this book already. That went fast, right? Today, you're going to finish up your Noticing Similarities graphic organizer and email it to us so we can take a look at that. If you have your school fair poster, make sure you send that too. I want to try to set up a Zoom call so we can all share our school fair posters with the whole class. Let's take a look back at our learning target for today. Our learning target for today is I can notice the things that are the same across the series. If you have any questions, please let me know. I would be happy to answer them. Stay safe and healthy. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.